Hello, Kaushik Mobe. Sir. Am I audible? So I can see speaker today, Kaushik, has joined. Kaushik, I have made you co-host, so you probably have power to share screen and everything. So you may please check. You may also turn on your video so that people can see you. Okay, huh? Right. You can see you, Kaushik. Right.
Yeah, so I don't have slides. I'll talk about it. So the plan is I'll talk about maybe 15-20 minutes on different things on Shyamaprasad. And then I'll take questions. Based on the question, I'll move forward. No? I think that's the good way. Maybe a little bit more if you want.
Right. I think that will be good. So then let us start today's session on Shyamaprasad. So Shyamaprasad is very important given the date and given the context and the times that we are living in. And by the way, today it has been announced as Partition Horrors Remembrance Day, whatever that means. But at least somebody finally recognized that there was a partition horror from India government. So fine. So I thank Kaushik, who is an economist by profession. So he's an economics professor by profession, but his interests are in history, Hinduism, and all of these things. And he has written a book in Bangla. So Kaushik, you may just share that the book on Bangla on Shyamaprasad and the leftist propaganda lies against Shyamaprasad. So the title of the Bangla book is K.A. Shyamaprasad. So who is this Shyamaprasad? So we will hear from him today. So Kaushik, please, it's a pleasure to have you. Please go ahead.
So, thank you, Arnab. It's an honor to speak in this particular assembly. I just listened to your talks on history on different occasions. Now, let me first introduce you Shyamaprasad Mukherjee as generally. His father was a very renowned person, Ashutosh Mukherjee. He was occupying two high posts at the same time as a judge of Calcutta High Court, as well as the Vice Chancellor of the Calcutta University. I mean, both of them were the top-rated institution. Right? Calcutta High Court was the most important court in those times because you remember our capital was that time. I mean, the British India's capital was that time was Calcutta till 1911, and Calcutta University was definitely the topmost university of those times in India, definitely, and also it was like even by European standards. And yeah, so he was. So it's a very great family to be born in. He was born in 1901. He had many brothers and sisters. I think he had like another 3 brothers and 3 sisters. He's younger. He's an older brother. I think his name is Ramaprasad. He also became a judge in Calcutta High Court. Younger brother Prasad, he was a globetrotter. So he has traveled in many places and wrote many books. He was a distinguished writer in his own right. So Shyamaprasad was a meritorious student. He passed entrance, and when he was 14 or so. So that time the rules were very different, and he passed in 14, and then he went on to do IA. In the IA, he was a rank holder. So those times, these examinations used to be conducted by Calcutta University itself, and he was a rank holder like I think 17th or something like that in the top 20. He did then his graduation in English, and then you see the Bengalis those times, not now. They were the decolonizing people. I mean, they were like fast. If you remember the British rule, the resistance came from 3 places dominantly. One from Maharashtra, and because basically the British took over the India from the Peshwas, right? Peshwas were kind of having this plan of Hindu Padashahi, basically to have the entire Hindudom, whatever it is, under the fold, and kind of come back. And it was so the Marathas were very upset, and because that plan was spoiled, and a resistance came from there. Again from Punjab, because again this is a Punjab Keshri Ranjit Singh ji was trying to again they do the same idea. Again, a basically very Indic power. In Bengal, we did not have any such icon. Like who was resisting the British. The British took over the land from Siraj Dowla, who was a very unpopular prince. Even the Muslims can't defend him well. So, but still there was a lot of agitation against the British rule from Bengal. So one reason was the Bengalis they have got two benefits. One is essentially we got the education. The education was Macaulay's education, all right. But then we are not following Toto in Macaulay. We are also reading Ramayana and Mahabharata those times in our houses. As well as we are getting the Western enlightenment during science and other things. It was a good combination. Nowadays, the Ramayana and Mahabharata is lost. I mean, we don't hear it in our houses mostly. And we get only the social sciences of the so-called sciences, I would say, so-called sciences. So there's a different combination that we are getting now. Before it was a different combination. So this education helped Bengal to have a decolonizing attitude. We also had the benefit of a permanent settlement system. So what do we have? That we have a system where people, these jamindars, they can keep their jamindari and kind of help. So they basically brought Cornwallis. There was a big devastating famine in West Bengal, in 1770. Maybe 1/3 of the Bengal's people perished. And after that, the British, they developed a good system where accountability was there, and there was a lot of permanency. Because of that system, what happened is essentially the Bengalis, they could have within a very stable social system, they could focus on different pursuits. And this is another reason the Bengalis kind of came up as leaders in resistance against the British. And the British realized it, and it was a little late, and then they tried to kind of break Bengal. Yeah, so that's a different story. Now, Shyamaprasad was born in those times, and he was definitely very pursuit of this decolonizing. Because why I was saying that? Because in those times, if you are doing graduation in English with a very good academic career, it was expected that you will do masters also in English. And it is very different. He did the masters in Bengali. The reason was very simple. He wanted to show, or he wanted to demonstrate, that it is as capable language as English. It's an Indian language which is as capable as English, and it is no lesser than English. And we'll see this attitude throughout his life. Then he studied law, and then he actually went to I think he was 23 or something. He got all the degrees, like masters in English and also law, and he went to also London for some legal recognition again. And then he came back and started practicing in Calcutta High Court. When he was 33, so he actually became the Vice Chancellor in Calcutta University. So this is the first time he becomes Chancellor. And he did carry out very successful 4 years. In these 4 years, he did a number of things. Number one, this is the first time in Calcutta University that the convocation address was given in Bengali, Indian language. It is to be always English. And Shyamaprasad sold it very well. How? He invited Rabindranath Tagore to offer the convocation address. So you really, if someone else came and kind of did a convocation address in Bengali, the slavish people, the colonized people would have little problem, right? You would say, why, it's a very bad thing you are doing. So what he did, he kind of, because he brought Rabindranath Tagore, what already a Nobel laureate by this time and by the most prominent authority in some sense to everyone around the world. So nobody could question it. And because nobody could question it, and this became a good practice, he did many other decolonizing things because he started this vocabulary of translation, technical, basically the technical terms of English, how to translate it in Bengali. So that vocabulary that was started by Shyamaprasad, and so that sciences can be effectively taught in Bengali and other Indian languages. And then again, the other thing he did was during his 4-year tenure was basically he also did a lot of emphasis on Islamic history. We need to know the Islamic history. He decided and kind of set up the Islamic history department in Calcutta University. He also tried to do another thing which is very critical. So usually the Calcutta University's curriculum, there was a Western understanding of the subjects, most of the things. But what he initiated in having a different, maybe a non-Abrahamic cultural understanding of subjects, and he started this Chinese and Tibetan departments, so that we get to know the other cultures of similar cultures. And that was a very different China, not the China we see nowadays. It was a China of the Confucius China, and maybe the China that used to revere India as a teacher. And then, so this is and also he put a lot of emphasis on physical exercise and other things in curriculum. There was a debate that time, long debate. What should be the appropriate symbol or emblem of Calcutta University? And whatever you propose as Indian culture, the Muslims would say that time that no, it is against Islam. It has some stark idolatry in it, and they would reject it. They are very powerful. Both the vice chancellors before Shyamaprasad Mukherjee were Muslims. One is Mr. I think Hussain Suraburdi, one of the Suraburdis. I mean, the Suraburdi was the kind of the butcher of Calcutta, not the guy. He was a relative of his. I think his name is Hassan Suraburdi. And then another was Mr. Muhammad Azizul Haq. So both are kind of very famous, and then I mean on their own professionally, and they became, and then nothing was done on this emblem. So he tried to create a new emblem with the word Sri, right? That's been Lakshmi and otherwise, and some kind of things. And then he replaced the Union Jack. So when there used to be a Foundation Day celebration of Calcutta University, and he used to have the Union Jack as the flag, so he replaced it with an Indian symbol. So this is a very successful 4 years, I would say, like up to 1938. And after this time, he actually joined politics. So initially, he was with Congress in the late 1920s. And he found the Congress's policy a little distressing because what happened, he was elected. So those times, there is a constituency called Calcutta University. And from that constituency, Shyamaprasad was elected throughout in the British India. So those times, so before he was elected in Congress ticket, but Congress suddenly said that you have to resign or you can't go to the assembly. So this is like very distressing. The purpose was defeated. So he left Congress and again got elected in an independent as an independent. But this time, after he resigned from Calcutta University, after his tenure is over as vice chancellor, not resigned, his tenure was over. So then he decided that he needs to do something. And at this, I mean, little before the things were cooking, I mean, and he kind of talked with Savarkar, and Savarkarji kind of said that, you know, come to Hindu Mahasabha, we'll make you the president, and you can decide and do things. And he became a joint Hindu Mahasabha, and from 1937 to 43, I think, those years, he was the president of Hindu Mahasabha. In those times, now there's a kind of a nowadays, if you say Hindu Mahasabha, it was kind of people little get little awkward to see that someone joining a so-called communal kind of organization. But this construct is a more recent construct. It came after independence. In those times, Hindu Mahasabha used to be the most dignified Bengalis is to be associated with the Hindu Mahasabha. So our historian Jadunath Sarkar, Ramesh Chandra Majumdar, they are very close to Dr. Mukherjee, Shyamaprasad Mukherjee, and the kind of they are there with the Hindu Mahasabha. Also, there are many other big names. I mean, so one is, Bengalis know very well. So there's a mathematician called Keshav Chandra Nag. So even now today, Bengali children, for them, this Keshav Chandra Nag's textbooks are very important. So he was also with the Hindu Mahasabha. So there are, I would say that the elite, they are primarily with the Hindu Mahasabha, and he was with them. So I'll summarize. So what I'll try to say that now the idea of this Hindu Mahasabha. What is the idea of the Hindu Mahasabha? The idea of the Hindu Mahasabha is that we understand that British rule is not a great thing, but it is also we have to recognize that it will not be a golden just the moment the British leaves. The other problems will fission. So one of the first persons who talked about this was Bipin Chandra Pal. So we have heard of Lal Bal Pal, right? Lal Bal Pal were the three great freedom fighters. Lal was Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal was Bal Gangadhar Tilak. The third one of this trio is Bipin Chandra Pal. So these were the leaders of Congress before Gandhiji's emergence. So this Bipin Chandra Pal, he wrote categorically. So the most problematic thing for the Hindus is not exactly the British. It may come from the China, or it can come from the Islamic world. He wrote it categorically. So the Hindu Mahasabha was kind of reserving the strength. They don't want to deplete the strength by fighting unnecessarily with the British without any real gain. So this is the politics Shyamaprasad was doing. But he was not very, British was not very pleased with him. They were very upset with him most of the time. And they do fight. In the 1937 election, there is a provincial election, right? So we know that there is a 1935, there is a new law brought by the British. It's called the Government of India Act. So the Government of India Act kind of gives you some autonomy to the governments. So the past election happened under this act in 1937. And the Congress said that in the provinces where we are the majority, we will form the government, but not in the other ones. Now, undivided Bengal was a Muslim majority state, province, right? And the majority was kind of the lead. The top party was, of course, Congress. The most number of seats. The second was one called Krishak Praja Party. So this was a kind of a secular party in some sense, because it gave candidate both in Hindu and Muslim constituencies. But most of these people are from the Muslim community only. But it is kind of much less radical than Muslim League, much less radical than Muslim League. The leader is to be called Fazlul Haq. Now, once this election was settled, the understanding was Congress and Fazlul Haq will kind of join hands and they'll kind of form the government. And this is where the problem came. The Congress said, no, we will not do anything. We will not allow you to form a coalition with Fazlul Haq. So this is a Congress arbitrary policies for which Shyamaprasad left Congress. They came again, surfaced again in 1937 elections. Congress stayed away. What was the result? Result was disastrous. Muslim League came, which was lesser in seats, but then it and with the Fazlul Haq joined hand and formed the government. So essentially, by staying away from power, the Congress leadership of that time essentially opened the gate for Muslim League takeover in the administrative positions in Bengal. And it was continued, but to be fair, Fazlul Haq, although he was not, you cannot say really he was all free from all the communal ideas altogether, but largely he was a person who is reasoned and who wants to kind of form more a consensus kind of opinions. And this was not very, did not go very well with Jinnah and Muslim League. So they fell apart. And Muslim League was preparing to dump Fazlul Haq and make a government with some other parties. So Fazlul Haq made the first move. There's a meeting between him, Shyamaprasad, and Forward Bloc, the party founded by Subhash Chandra Bose. And they decided, and they make a formidable coalition, and then kind of they dump Muslim League and they formed a new government. So this is like in the 1941. And this government used to be called Shama Hawk government. Shyamaprasad was the minister in this government. And Hawk was also the Hawk, Fazlul Hawk is the prime minister. Those times they used to be called prime minister, the leaders of the province. And Shyamaprasad also was a minister, I think finance minister. And forward block was also there. And they did pretty well. They are doing good things. And what happened meanwhile? The Bharat Chharo Andolan, this has come in 1942. So Hindu Mahasabha didn't want to participate in this movement because they felt that it would be disaster. One of the very leading Bengali thought leader was Aurobindo Ghosh, and he was asked by Gandhi whether we should go for this movement, and Aurobindo said no, because this will unnecessarily kill our energy. So anyway, Gandhi still went forward. So what Shyamaprasad did, he wrote 2 letters to the governor, first to the provincial leader, provincial governor, and then to the Governor General of India. In those letters, the Shyamaprasad wrote that this is not a good movement. This August, the movement that Gandhiji is starting, because the world is fighting against the fascism, and we should not weaken the force. He said that categorically. But he also said, but a lot of responsibility lies with the British. If the really British wants to keep the high ground of moral leadership, then they should actually announce that they are also not fighting this war for any imperial gains. They are fighting this war for the sake of humanity. So therefore, they should say categorically that we'll give you India freedom. So this is a very tactful way of putting the things. At the one hand, he is not saying he's a supporter, but whatever Gandhiji is saying, he is essentially saying the same thing. They need to give us freedom. So anyway, of course, the British didn't listen and things went ahead. But the kind of torture that happened in the name of in this time, the kind of persecution that happened to the nationalist people, he felt distressed, and things were getting bitter. So he kind of resigned from the cabinet. Things were getting bitter because what is happening? The Japanese, they already entered the war. And there is a high chance the Japanese actually come to attack India. And then in 1942, the British, they were feeling like they might lose the war if the Japanese open their Asian front here and they come to India. So what they are doing, they were actually at those times, basically the Japanese also came once, they actually bombed in Calcutta also. So the bomb fell. So they tried to they targeted the Howrah Bridge, but unfortunately they missed it. Anyway, the bomb fell, and so basically the British was very panicky. And what they did, they essentially they were ruining. They are kind of taking a policy of destruction. So they are taking all the cereals were destroyed, all the infrastructure was destroyed in the Bedipur and other regions. And this created an artificial shortage of food. And again, the famine came to Bengal in 1940. So Shyamaprasad, he resigned already from ministership, but he, on his own, he's kind of constituted a relief teams, and he kind of did his best. He also, those times, there's a big debate with him in the assembly, the Anglo-Indian members saying good things. And then Shyamaprasad kind of gave the true picture what was happening. So there's a book on that. And they said, you should say hell tojo, the way you are saying things. And Shyamaprasad said, I might, because I can see the British, they are not doing anything good to us. So I don't know whether hell tojo will help me, but definitely the British help British is not going to help me. That I can see. So things took an ugly turn. So this was the politics of Shyamaprasad till 1946. And so the idea those time was the India will be independent, but it was not necessarily that that India would be partitioned. So the partition idea was not getting support from Congress, at least officially. So what happened? The British, the Muslim League, they said direct action, and they said that we'll fight, we'll take direct action on the streets. And those times, the only province ruled by Muslim League, and what is the reason? Reason is basically Congress is non-committal to form alliance with Fazlul Haq. So things have changed power structure. Now it is the basically Muslim League government in Bengal then in 1946 by Sohrawardy, and Sohrawardy was kind of this is the only Muslim League province, Muslim League administered or ruled province in India. So 14th August, we know the Great Calcutta killings. Big murder happened. So Bengalis were thinking, no, nothing would happen to us except the British. Except the British is the only problem. Now they saw the other picture. The British is not the only problem. There are other problems. Even the British not there. But Congress was helpless in some sense. Bengal Congress. They cannot talk about partition. They can't do anything because they are all based on Gandhiji and Nehru, who did not even come to Bengal immediately. So in this juncture, Shyamaprasad Mukherjee took a leadership. He formed a partition Bengal League with some other freedom fighters, his member. And what he did, he kind of started gaining, building popular opinion in favor of partition of Bengal. So he said that, yeah, if you want to partition India, that's not, I mean, I don't really care. But what do we have? We must have a Hindu homeland, because the experiences we have in Great Calcutta killing with the Muslim League government, and also during Noakhali in the October, are very distressing. Why we cannot have we must have a Hindu homeland for the Bengalis, Bengali Hindus, and we must partition West Bengal and do it. This is and this movement become a popular movement. Everybody joined in. The Bengal Congress joined in. So the communists, they were in favor of Pakistan those times. And 1946, they were kind of celebrating Pakistan. In fact, on the day of 16th August, when the direct massacre happened in Calcutta, there's a big rally that started. I mean, this massacre started with a big rally in the heart of Calcutta. And that rally, in the rally, the communist parties were also invited. They were there in the rally for some time. This is what the eyewitnesses say. But after some time, they left when they felt the pulse is not going in the right direction. So, so you can have to imagine this thing. In West Bengal, among the Bengali Hindus, the biggest party was Bengali Congress, the Congress. Of course, the Hindu Mahasabha was the leading one with the elites, but that's only secondary. And communists were rising force, and they were also put in favor of Pakistan. Now, in this situation, he started a movement, but this movement soon became a movement of all. Everybody joined in. The Bengal Congress is a provincial meeting of the Bengal Congress, and in the Bengal Congress meeting, all the Bengali Congress leaders, Bidhan Chandra Raj, our first chief minister, I mean not first, but second, but most impactful one. Otullo Ghosh, one of the very heavyweights. So all of them kind of joined hand, and they say, yeah, we are in favor of partitioning Bengal, and we want to join it. And this is gains strength. This movement gains strength. Even the elite also, the Jamindars and Rajas, they also joined hands. And there was a big, there were like 76 meetings happened all over Bengal, consolidating this demand for West Bengal. And this demand and these meetings were held by both Hindu Mahasabha and Congress. Largest one happened in Kolkata, where Jadunath Sarkar, the eminent historian, he presided over the meeting. And there is a survey done by Amrita Bazar Patrika it was a English newspaper, a nationalist English newspaper from Kolkata. And it was found out that 98% people, more than 98% of the Hindu Bengalis, they said, yes, we wanted partition. So the strength of the opinion is so massive that Gandhiji and Nehru, they also accepted this demand. But it was started by Shyamaprasad. It was always, it was carried out by Shyamaprasad. Everybody joined, of course. And then eventually, we know the story that a partition that we decided the Warwell plan happened, and based on the Warwell plan, it was stated that Bengal and Assam, Bengal has to be partitioned along with Punjab, and these and the Bengali Hindus got their homeland. It is very important in the sense because yeah, so for the Bengalis, of course, it is very important. Of course, there would have not been any Bengali Hindu identity, I think. I'm afraid. If Shyamaprasad would have not been there. We have seen the things that happened in Bangladesh, where Bengalis, Hindus, they were like 1/3 or 40% of the population. Now they are down to 8%, and the identity is almost lost. In the Sindhu province, Sindh, right? In the Sindh province, things were similar, but there was no Shyamaprasad there, so no partition. And Sindhis, they emigrated out from that region to India, but the identity is lost, right? There are a lot of Bengali movies, but you don't see any Sindhi movie, right? So literature, there is no Sindhi literature. Although it was not a, it was a once a very cultured region, so things are lost. I'm just giving a parallel to demonstrate the effect of Shyamaprasad. So I think my 30 minutes are over. Now, what I'll try to say, and after the, I'll just try to conclude in another 5 minutes. After this independence, there's a coalition, there's a national government. Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru as such prime minister. Shyamaprasad also given a minister, became a minister there. But something happened. Gandhiji was assassinated by Nathuram Godse. And after this assassination, it was disastrous for Hindu Mahasabha. Anyone without Hindu Mahasabha flag, they are kind of being targeted. In Pune, we know large amounts of Maratha Brahmins were killed after the killing of Gandhiji, assassination of Gandhiji. So Shyamaprasad, he understood that it is not possible to continue with this plan. So he has to create a new party. And this is where he created Bharatiya Janasangh. And this is the time where he contacted RSS leadership of those times. So they actually helped him to give him some very capable people to start the party. One of them is Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who became the secretary for Shyamaprasad. So he got out of Hindu Mahasabha, but not basically. One very big reason was it was not possible those times. The Indian policies were horrible in the initial days. Nehru, he made a pact with the Pakistani counterpart, his Pakistani counterpart, Liaquat Ali. It's called Liaquat Nehru Pact. And this pact says that India will not say anything about the minorities, that is the Bengali Hindus, and they are plight in Bangladesh. Or, I mean, that time is Pakistan. So it was such a bad pact that it was all over Bengal, the effect was, so nobody approved it. And there are two ministers in this Nehru cabinet, Bengali minister. One is Shyamaprasad, another is from Congress. His name is, I think, Kitish Chandra Nyogi. Both of them resigned. Both of them resigned from this. After this pact is done. The first general election happened in 1951. Shyamaprasad got elected as a member of parliament from South Calcutta. But overall, it was not a very disastrous performance for Janasangh. They got only 3 MPs in the 1952 elections. And most, of course, Congress got a lot, large number of MPs, but of course, the opposition, in some sense, they are sensing the idea of Shyamaprasad Mukherjee. So they got all together and they make a big kind of coalition. Shyamaprasad was the de facto opposition. We know the story of Kashmir those times. That Kashmir had a different flag. It was part of India, but it has a different law. It had a different law even before 5th August 2019. But definitely the flag thing settled down a little later. But that time everything was different. And Sheikh Abdullah, he was saying that in Urdu he has to be declared the Prime Minister of Kashmir. I forgot the name, this Urdu term. It was impossible for any nationalist Hindu to go forward, to kind of nationalist Indian to kind of sit quiet. So Shyamaprasad entered Kashmir, and he kind of said in this, I think in 1953, May, he was arrested. But Shyamaprasad thought he would be arrested by the Delhi, right? By the law of Indian law, and he will be in the Delhi. And this is the devilish brilliance of Nehru. Had Shyamaprasad been arrested in Delhi, Indian laws, then nothing could have happened to him. Because Shyamaprasad used to enjoy the support of the Bengali elite altogether. Atulya Ghosh, the big stalwart of Bengal's Congress, he was always with him. In fact, after Shyamaprasad died, Atulya Ghosh made a big issue in Congress itself. Bidhan Chandra Roy, the first Chief Minister of Bengal, he used to admire Mukherjee. If you look at the left, not all left was Communist Party that time. One left was basically, there's a kind of a stream of left, but essentially nationalist but left. So that party was called Revolutionary Socialist Party, RSP. The only MP of that party, I think from Bengal only MP, was Dr. Meghnad Saha, stellar physicist and scientist who had a very great career. He was again a fan of Shyamaprasad Mukherjee. So all these people would have raised a hue and cry, and basically nothing could have been done to Mukherjee. We can keep him in jail for some time, but it would, at the end of the day, it would only increase his popularity. And this is where Nehruji, he did not arrest him in the Indian laws. He was arrested in Kashmiri laws. And there was no such law existed. The laws were passed little later after the arrest, were enforced retroactively. He was kept in the jail. Nobody was allowed to visit him. He was given medicines he was allergic to. Mukherjee protested, but his protest was not heeded. And eventually he became sick after 1.5 months. This is the official version. And he died. When the news came, the mother of Shyamaprasad Mukherjee is still alive. She said that we must have an inquiry. And Nehruji said, no, we have talked to the relevant people and it is a natural death. I'm very convinced. She said, I'm not convinced. Have a neutral inquiry. The letter was not answered. There was no inquiry. I think so this is all I know about the life of Shyamaprasad. Now I wrote a book, as Arnav mentioned. So the idea of the book came. So because in the history Shyamaprasad is not mentioned, so nobody knew about Shyamaprasad. My own family, most of my family was basically communist minded, so they did not know about Shyamaprasad like 20 years ago. I talked about Shyamaprasad to them and kind of introduced him. Of course, there's a road in Kolkata, Shyamaprasad Mukherjee Road, but apart from that, there's nothing much there up there. So when this time in 2020 election, 2000 this year's election, 21 elections, this BJP became a more relevant force again after winning, after having a great performance in 2019 Lok Sabha election. Shyamaprasad again came in discourse. And there is a lot of things, lies are being propagated. I have to say the lies, unparliamentary word. But if I say untruth, probably it wouldn't be really respecting that truth. The only thing I can say it's a lie. So those lies were being spread about Shyamaprasad in this Bengali social media and other places, websites everywhere. So I actually wrote this book along with my co-author Pinaki Paul. So we wrote the book, and then so this actually what we have done. We started the book. I mean, this book is in Bengali. It's for Bengali audience only. So basically, we started with a poster of Communist Party of the Communists. So this poster actually talked about that Shyamaprasad is a nothing. His only contribution is he's born in a big family. He is a communal guy. He's a utterly bad guy. I mean, all sorts of bad things. He was a dalal of British. And then what I have done, I took each of these points and I kind of refuted them with facts. So everything I've written, and I gave references and put all the relevant portions also. I took a snapshot of this from the books and put it here. So everybody could see that everything is up there. So this was published by one Bengali Bengali website, Bangladesh. Yeah, so that is pretty much it. So I think I will not talk much. So I've observed that if I talk much, probably you're missing the questions that is coming in the audience minds. So I'd like to hear you for the questions, and based on the questions, I will elaborate. If you have one to comment.
Right. Okay. So Kaushik, thank you very much. There was so many things that at least I did not know about Shyamaprasad that came up through your talk. So yeah, we can have questions from the audience, or anybody can. So you may also stop screen sharing so that
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, so the questions can be. All right. So anybody wants to have any question or anything? So, yeah.
Shwet here. Can you hear me?
Shetketu, yes. Shetketu, right?
Shetketu, yes.
Please.
Not a question, it's just a remark. Kaushik, am I audible?
I can hear you. Please go on.
Yeah. You mentioned about how he did his masters in Bengali, and the convocation address was in Bengali and things like that. So I was just reminded of something that Sri Aurobindo said about this. In those days, they used to say that what Bengal thinks today, India will do tomorrow. And the reason for that was the awakening in India after a long suppression, of 1,000 years. It started in Bengal, and Sri Aurobindo, in one of his private remarks, he says that the reason for this is because the Bengali language was not neglected. And when you don't neglect your native language, then you remain close to the soul of the the particular this thing. So I was just reminded of that when you
Very
said.
nice, Kiranji, no?
Kiranji, yes.
Kiranji, I mean, I would love to, if you could give me the reference or something. I was trying.
Yes, I will send you the reference. I don't have it now.
Because I was trying to convince some people that it's very important for mother tongue.
Oh yes, but this is a
well-known
fact.
Will help actually.
This is a well-known fact, but Sri Aurobindo puts his finger on this reason why Bengal was.
Why Aurobindo? This was told by Tagore and Gandhiji.
No. I don't mean to say. I don't mean to say in a general way. Why the Bengalis were the first to awaken, in the freedom struggle. So he says that this is the reason, because the Bengali language was not neglected, and the literature and all that, Bankim Chandra and all these people. So it kept the Bengalis very close to the soul of the nation.
Rooted. No, but if you look at also the construction of the Bengali language, that's again another tale. I mean, I'll not divert too much. But essentially, what happened? Bengali language was constructed to make Sanskrit words dominant. So in the Marathas, Peshwa regime also, same thing happened. So the language in the Maratha language was full of Persian words and Arabic and Turkish words, mostly Persian and Turkish. So then Peshwas, they are trying to remove it and make it a Sanskrit dominated language. The same project happened in Bengal, although in a little decentralized way. So many of the Farsi words and things were kind of removed. And Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Bankim Chandra, and they took leading part in making it more rooted to Sanskrit. So I'm trying to say that the language also was kind of, it's true, of course, the language, but language project was also a little bit cultivation. And it was kind of emphasized that we have developed a very tongue which is very closer to kind of Sanskrit.
Okay.
Right.
Sorry, this is Shwet Kata here. I have a slightly different opinion to that regarding why Bengal is one of the first places where this idea of nationalism arose first. I think that's to do with the spiritual revolution that preceded that. And I don't want to get into that right now because that will take us away from the primary point of discussion we were having. So first of all, Kaushik, thank you very much. That was very enlightening for me. I didn't know about Shyamaprasad Mukherjee as much as you narrated today. What will be of importance to me, what I would love to know a little bit more is the primary point in which he is denigrated. So in your book, you actually illustrated all the points that how leftists denigrate him, and then you kind of counter each point. So can you talk us through the top 3 or 4 points, which is how he is denigrated, and then talk us the counter that you have put in your book. I haven't read your book, unfortunately, but it'll be great.
I can share the book. It is available here, and not a problem. So the communists actually, what they do, I mean, the communist general strategy is they always operate by death by 1,000 cards. So what they do, they always make a little point, which in itself may not be really big, but when you make 10 of them, it looks bad. So that is kind of the way they work. Okay, so I'll tell some of it. But they are so blatant lies that if you go to Wikipedia also, you might see some of them being disputed.
Right.
So maybe I don't know. Maybe I can tell you the lies they are saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, and where people you are interested, I can go one of them. So number 1. So these are like I have done 10 points, and all these 10 points are like uttered out. So first lie: Shyamaprasad allied with Muslim League and became a minister. So I told you already, so it was not a Muslim League, it was with the Fazlul Haq, and he's actually the strong Muslim League. But you see the spin. The communists actually themselves, they actually allied with Muslim League, and they were supporting the communist plan. But it is there, this is like the first thing. So this is, I think I was talking to someone who is kind of very knowledgeable in this domain of communist propaganda. So he was saying the first rule of communist propaganda is you give your opponent your weak points, you say, you are the person who have done it. And then when he tried to defend it, it looked like he's defending his strong. But then basically whatever your guilts are, they're gone, right? That's what they're kind of done.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Kaushik,
I have a.
Kaushik, are you frozen? Kaushik probably got lost. Anyway, so I have the book written by Kaushik with me in Bangla, so I can pass it on to people who can read Bangla, or I can summarize it in the group. The 10 lies. So he specifically talks about 10 lies, and so Kaushik, we may have lost him.
I think so.
Okay, fine. So he will probably rejoin. But Aditya ji, you can, in the meanwhile, make it point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have 3 questions. One is three
Can you hear
questions.
me?
List them out first. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes. My first question is, how did West Bengal get created, but East Sindh not get created? Because if a partition looked like an eventuality, we had to go into damage control mode and try to retain as much. So that is a question, because there is an intellectual, yes,
I think Kaushik answered it in one line, because
yes.
Bengal to have a Shyamaprasad which Sindh did not have. So that's
Yes,
why
yes. But
partition.
what I want to go deeper into that, there will be an intellectual, logistic, as well as adhyatmic reason why we get a Shama Prasad in a Bengal, but we did not get someone similar in Sindh. So that has to be discovered, because it cannot just be a matter of luck. There has to be a substrate of a powerful ongoing culture to create that. So the connection
Yeah.
between the
May
practicing
I?
Hindu society and activism on the political side, that was a complete spectrum that was present in Bengal. That is my assessment. So I wanted his opinion on whether my assessment has any nuanced difference to it. This was my first question. Uh, could I ask my remaining two questions too?
Yeah, please. Yes.
Yeah. Could we know more about Chandranath Basu and others who used the word Hindutva well before Veer Savarkar? Because I've heard the term was used first by Hindus in Bengal. And is there any connection of those initial users of the word Hindutva with the Samskaras of the Bengal unit of the Hindu Mahasabha? So this is my second question about the use of the word Hindutva well before the establishment of the Hindu Mahasabha and well before Veer Savarkar, but it was in Hindu Bengali society. This is my second question. And the third question, I really need to know more of it, because I was losing part of our talk due to a bad internet service. I do not know if this point has been discussed, but what exactly is the reason why Shyamaprasad Mukherjee left the Hindu Mahasabha and formed the Bharatiya Jana Sangha? I think that point was being spoken on, but I had a bad audio quality at that time. So I would request that to be briefly mentioned again. Thank you.
So Kaushik, are you online?
Yeah, I'm online. Can you hear me?
Were my questions audible, sir?
Some of them are audible, not all of it. The same connection that I'm trying to say that first we have to see also the proportions.
Yes.
In Bengal, the proportion of Hindus were 40%, over 40%, undivided Bengal. The same things were more tragic. That's one thing. And second question you were talking about, I couldn't hear it very well. Yeah, what was it?
The second question was about the usage of the word Hindutva by Hindus in Bengal in the 19th century, decades before the establishment of the Hindu Mahasabha and decades
Okay.
before
The
the word was
Bengali
first
Hindu.
used. Yeah, and it was used well. Chandranath Basu and others used it well before Veer Savarkar. So, is there any connection of the usage of that word and the particular society
Aditya,
or group?
can you hear me?
Yes.
So what I'm
Yes.
trying to say that the Bengalis were kind of the leaders in Congress itself. Congress was founded in Bengal, right? I mean,
Yes.
and
Yes.
the opponent was Congress was basically Syed Ahmed, right? Syed Ahmed Khan was the founded this Aligarh.
Yes.
So this person actually said in his speech, the famous speech in Mirat, and he said, Congress is full of Bengalis, and these Bengalis are so bad you cannot imagine. So that's what kind of I am paraphrasing, of course, but this is what he said. So the Bengali Hindu, so that time Hindu Congress used to be seen as a Hindu organization, and he used to kind of be there. Bengalis were there. But then, when there's a big struggle against the partition of Bengal happened in 1905, it was all about mostly by the Bengali Hindus. Almost all by Bengali Hindus. And then there are many decentralized Hinduism was there. There's an organization called Anushilan Samiti, who are basically the birthground of all the Bengali revolutionaries, right, who are kind of fighting the British. And then Jugantar, another one, by Aurobindo Ghosh, right, their team. So all these things were kind of all very Hindu-minded. But then what happened? So Hindu Mahasabha need not be there to take this thing forward. And Chandranath Basu was not Chandranath Basu's book is okay, that's a good book, but it was not a phenomenal book. In the sense that Bengali Hindus, we did not used to draw inspiration from book. We used to draw inspiration from Swami Vivekananda. So Swami Vivekananda's writings, they actually inspired everyone, right? They inspired Subhash Chandra Bose, for example. They used to inspire Jugantar and all these people. And these people, so this Hindu mindedness was completely there. So in fact, I think one way, there's a book, right? Hindu Nation, Swami Rousing Call to Hindu Nation by Swami Vivekananda's Rousing Call to Hindu Nation. So basically, it's a compilation of the quotes from Vivekananda's writing, complete works. But they actually shown in proper context how all the speech is actually what we are talking about a Hindu nation. So this is what is kind of big there. Yeah. So yeah. So third question, sir.
What was I missed a part of your talk because of poor audio quality. So
Yeah,
what is the main reason why Shyamaprasad ji left Hindu Mahasabha and created, went into the Bharatiya Janasangha? What was his exit interview discussion with Veer Savarkar on that? Because Veer Savarkar had said, if he would have gone into the Congress, it would have saved the Congress from becoming anti-Hindu. And he said, if there is another Bharatiya Janasangha, either it will become another Congress or another Hindu Mahasabha. So this becomes a matter of, something we should know about. Could you tell a bit on this? Because if you had already mentioned it, sir, I missed out on it because of poor
No,
audio.
I did not mention his discussion, but real politic wise, it was not possible to continue Hindu Mahasabha. Because all the activists, because all the Gandhi murder things were being picked up on this thing. Savarkarji, of course, did not like it. One reason is probably he diluted in some sense. He said that anybody can become minister, can become a member of Bharatiya Janasangha,
Yes,
not only
yes.
Muslims. So he was in some sense playing to the narrative game set by Nehru. Nehru said he invented the word secular. The word secular did not exist before Nehru. So the word was whether you believe in communal partition, or you don't believe in communal partition. Usually the Hindutva parties just said, no, we don't believe in communal partition. And Congress was in favor of communal partition. And then he invented the word secular and he reversed this thing. He said, no, we are actually secular. These people are like communal. Yeah. So he actually, I think he played by the narrative set by Nehru. So I think Savarkar was possibly, I can see a point in Savarkar. I don't want to comment about the merits of his action and other things. This is a day of we are remembering Shyamaprasad Mukherjee. So, and I don't know what kind of situation was up there at that time. I think it will be unwise for me to comment anything on that. But it's not everybody is a human. I think I will say like
that. Right. Great, Kaushik. So anybody else? Anybody wants to have a comment or question or anything? Yes, please.
Maybe Kiranji, your question was about the last question was about why, what was the turning point for Dr. Shyamaprasad Mukherjee to leave Hindu Mahasabha and form Bharatiya Janasangh, right? So around, actually, it's not about leaving Hindu Mahasabha. He was the president of Hindu Mahasabha and also he became MP. As Kaushik ji mentioned earlier, and during those first 2 years itself, Dr. Shyamaprasad Mukherjee had led to many, like he was a minister of industries. He had led to many such initiatives which we know of today very commonly. One is HAL, the HAL Bangalore. One is Chittaranjan locomotives. Almost all of the train bogies that you see, you would see that print there. It was one of his initiatives, and the other one was Sirhindi Chemicals. So anyway, so he was meticulous at doing all of this. Don't want to further expand on that, but major point was his major points of contentions were based on the same ideology as Sardar Patel's, which is persecution of Hindus in the Pakistan and condition of Hindus in East Bengal after the India's independence. Even after that, Kaushik ji mentioned about the Nehru-Liaquat Ali Khan Pact, which is the Delhi Pact. At that point, that was the turning point where he said that, and that pact itself was broken within 1 month of being signed. And there were like thousands and thousands of Hindus that were killed. That was the turning point where he said, okay, I cannot stand in this government anymore. I have to exit and I have to form a new party all afresh, bottoms up. So he had to re-strategize and rethink after leaving, where he also strategically played. I think this point was also mentioned by Kaushik ji, where he also strategically played that I need to gather momentum from all segments of society. Um, so therefore, this communal versus secular game came into play, and rightly said, Nehru did play this, and the first general elections were played behind this card of, oh, BJS is communal, we are secular. But he still became an MP after that. So anyway, so that was the point. That the turning point was that Nehru-Liaquat Ali Khan Pact of 1950, where he left. I think 1950 it was.
Right. Great. So, if there are no more questions, I'd like to end with just one connection which Kaushik you made in your book very nicely, but for the sake of recording, for the sake of others. So his relationships with Netaji, Subhash Chandra Bose, it is often rumored that they were at loggerheads due to all of these things. You broke the myth in your book, so if you may please touch upon that in a couple of minutes.
Sure. Can you hear me well? My connection is not very good, but I hope it's audible. So basically, what happened? Shyamaprasad's constituencies were basically the Hindus who are very rooted to this thing. Subhash Chandra Bose was a practicing Hindu in his personal life. He was he used to follow yoga, and he used to do Durga Puja. He used to do all sorts of things. But he was also the leader of the socialists those times, and they were kind of saying, we have to keep the standard socialist, or say, let's say, Marxist way of looking at religions. So basically, you have to keep religion out of the public life, only in the personal life. Yeah. So that's how kind of it used to happen. Now, so they personally were not really bitter against each other or anything like that, but their constituencies used to have a kind of tussles once in a while. One time, something happened to this one of the meetings. Shyamaprasad Mukherjee was there. Someone threw a brick or something. But then eventually, what happened? I mean, some of the Subhash Chandra Bose's followers, they threw a brick to Shyamaprasad Mukherjee in a meeting. It created some problem, but then eventually Shyamaprasad and Netaji, they met each other, and they kind of resolved it out. As a matter of fact, after these incidents, 1 or 2 years, when Shama Haq ministry was formed by Shyamaprasad and Fazlul Haq, Subhash Chandra Bose's party, Forward Bloc, Subhash Chandra by that time has left this place, but his party, Forward Bloc, was a constituent of that ministry. And Subhash's brother, Sarad Bose, was supposed to be a member in that ministry. Something happened, I forgot exactly, but maybe the British prison jailed him or something, and that's why Sarad Bose could not become minister. But otherwise, kind of, because they are all for this ministry. Now, another thing the communists like to say that, Subhash Bose is kind of very antithetical to Hindu Mahasabha and other things. In some sense, yeah, there are some relevant. Sometimes Subhash Bose was not really very kind of supportive of Hindu Mahasabha endeavors. But it is not ever that they are like in loggerheads or anything like that. As a matter of fact, and this is something very few people know. This is mentioned in Savarkarji's book, Tejasvi Tare, in Marathi. I mean, so that's why people don't know, because it's written in Marathi. So there's a chapter when he described a meeting with Subhash Chandra Bose. So Subhash Chandra Bose, he came to Savarkarji one time because of being invited. And what was the reason? So one of the very good friends of Savarkarji was Rasbihari Bose. Rasbihari Bose was actually the leader of the revolutionaries of North India. After Savarkarji was jailed, and before that there was also connections. And then Rasbihari Bose eventually fled India, and he went to Japan, and there he kind of settled there. Now there is a message, and then when Savarkarji is back in the public life again, the president of Hindu Mahasabha after 1934. That time again he connection kind of rekindled. So there's again they kind of got together. And actually, Rasbihari Bose, nobody knows this, or very few people know about it. He started actually a Japanese chapter of the Hindu Mahasabha. And this is how, and then it kind of, and then these talks were went on that, if they are kind of thinking, they are like visionaries, of course, that, this, what is happening in Japan will probably go in the Axis side. So essentially the tussle with them, with the British is inevitable. So we need someone to do it. And at this juncture, Shyamaprasad ji actually was called by Savarkar. Uh, and this is the discussion that happened. And what do you know as a fact that after this meeting, a few months after that, basically Subhas Bose he fled and he went to Afghanistan and to Germany and all these things.
Great, great. Thank you, thank you. So it was so. Yeah, I mean, I did not know that Raspberry Ghosh had this Japanese chapter of Hindu Mahasabha. That is fantastic.
So I have given the references in the in my in the yeah.
From your book only. I mean, this is actually a lot of information in the book which I did not know. So I thought that was important. So maybe we can. Oh, okay. There is a raised hand. Aditya ji. Okay, we have
Yes.
4 minutes to finish. So please, yeah, very quickly, maybe.
Oh, I think I raised my hand by mistake.
Yes,
Must have got pressed. Oh, so sorry.
No problem. Okay, so in the interests of time, I think we can go on with Shyamaprasad's legacy, and we are lucky to have Kaushik, and we can have more questions, more discussions, etc. But I guess in the interest of time, we may finish here. If there is no one more important question, then maybe Kaushik, I'll just request you to summarize maybe and give some pointers. Of course, the book is one very big resource. It's written in Bangla, so but that's a very big resource. It's lots of any other things or any other last comments for people to find out about Shyamaprasad?
Arnab, if you can summarize the main points of the book in English, that will help non-Bengali speakers.
Definitely, I'll do that. So I read the book in this week only. So basically, as Kaushik said, he brought up 10 lies that the communists are spreading, the left rather is spreading. He takes them one by one, deconstructs them by using facts and the references and all of those things. So fine, I will do a summarization. It will be an honor, Kaushik, if you allow to summarize your book in English in our group. So I hope that we do. So Kaushik, you don't have problems with that, right?
Thank you, everyone. My connection is very unstable.
All right.
No, I can't. I mean, I'm getting very.
Okay, Kaushik.
I can't hear you, Arnav, completely. So I would like to thank you, all of you,
all right,
for inviting me, and it was really, I'm very humbled by the audience. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kaushik.
Thanks, Kaushik.
Thank you, Kaushik.
Okay.
Arnabji, one more comment I would want to make about Kaushik ji refers the tactful or strategy that was implemented to get Shyamaprasad Mukherjee arrested was, it was so there were 2 reasons. So Kaushik ji mentioned that he enjoys a major majority in Delhi. The actual reason for this was that him being a current MP at that point of time, he would have also enjoyed the immunity from arrest. He could not have been arrested in Indian laws. So what they did was, him and Atal Bihari Vajpayee were actually crossing the river of Ravi, the Ravi Bridge. The Ravi Bridge is between Punjab and Jammu. The moment he crosses Ravi Bridge, there were people waiting, there were forces waiting on the Kashmir side or the Jammu side to get him arrested. So they targeted only him and sent Atal Bihari Vajpayee back at that point of time. And that was also a turning point in Atal Bihari Vajpayee's career, where he was a journalist following through Dr. Shyamaprasad Mukherjee at that point of time. And when he saw all of this, right, at that point of time, he thought, okay, let me leave journalism and I will get into the mainstream politics also. So anyway, so that was one of the interesting aspects of how they get him specifically arrested at the border of Kashmir itself.
Right. So it was a political murder planned well. And
correct. Yes.
Ignored all the writings on the wall and fell into the trap. So
yes, and in fact, he was the one who.
And Congress has this habit. I mean, so even bring in Lal Bahadur Shastri's murder and all of this. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He was also, I think, worth mentioning his words that made him famous was एक देश में दो निशान, दो विधान, दो प्रधान नहीं चलेंगे.
Right.
So दो निशान means two flags, दो विधान means two constitutions, दो प्रधान means two prime ministers. I think, as we all know, Jammu Kashmir still used to have the post of prime minister until 370 was scrapped.
Yeah, and it took us 70 years, more than that.
Yes.
Anyway, now that it
Best
is
to
not-
Hyderabad too.
So let's end today. So tomorrow is our official Independence Day, and whatever way people want to accept it, reject it, celebrate it, whatever. But well, that's a fact of life that we have to deal with. So let's end on that
We'll
note.
celebrate Shivaji Jayanti.
We will. I mean, fine. So definitely, that's what I said. So there are, of course, afterwards is about 15th August itself. But anyway, so we will let's end on that note. So thank you all. Thank Kaushik, who is actually my friend. I mean, actually my batchmate from my college days. So he's a good friend. I am very honored to have him, and he led such a wonderful session. So thank you all. Okay, so let's end. So,
Thank you, Anu. Thank you all.
Thank you. Very insightful.